welcome to another episode of the Chicks on the Right podcast. We're super excited today to have with us the founder and CEO of Republican Red Wines. Paul Johnson is with us to talk about wines, tariffs, conversation, all of it. Very happy that you're here with us. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You bet. So tell our audience, give our audience sort of the inside scoop, if you will, about the American wine industry and what people might be, say, the most surprised to learn about how wine is actually grown and bottled and sold and all of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that when you think of a winery, you think of a vineyard on a winery, and they grow the grapes and they make the wine and they sell to your doorstep. People kind of have this notion of the wine industry. But really, while there are some wineries like that, it can also be very fragmented, where people just focus on growing, other companies just focus on making wine, and others will be focused on kind of marketing and selling brands. And something people don't know, and there's been quite a bit of press about this, at least within the industry, is big wineries especially kind of use this approach where they can import up to 25% of a blend of a bottle from South America, Australia, Europe, and put it into a bottle that is labeled as if it's made in America. And when you add up all of that imported wine, it's roughly equal to the shortage that, I come up from a farming background, so I'm partial to the farming side of things. And if you add up what is imported, it is roughly equal to the shortage that the American farmers face. And so farmers are left dropping fruit on the ground. And yet a lot of the big wine companies are importing wine. And it's, you look at this going, this maybe is a good case for tariffs to support the American industry.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. And something I like to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about the U.S. wines that contain all the imported juice. And then how do Americans know, how do they even navigate that? How do they even know how to choose like American wine,
Yeah, it's like anything else. You really have to look into the company that you're buying from.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is something you care about, then, take a closer look at the company itself. And if it's a multinational company or a very large winery, chances are they're running at a level where they would consider bringing in imports, and they're looking very much at their bottom line and margins, and they're more likely to do that. Your smaller wineries, they're less likely to do that.
So you mentioned that that this could be a good case for tariffs. So, and you mentioned also that you have a farming background. So what would a pro-American, pro-farmer tariff policy look like exactly? One that would protect growers and winemakers like you?
Yeah, I mean, specifically to do with bulk wine imports. So this wine is moved around, before it's put into bottle, it's just sitting in large tanks. You can put it in tankers, you can move it around the world. And so that's how bulk wine is moved around and imported into the country. And so I would support having tariffs specifically on bulk wine coming in, and not necessarily hurting, the producers that, French wine and Italian wine and Argentinian Malbec and all these wines that people love. There's a place for that. And I don't oppose having free trade there. But when we're bringing in bulk wine and then blending it into something that says it's American made, that's where, especially when it hurts the American farmer, that's where I go, wait, I think we can have a better policy here. And really it would be kind of better labeling laws, especially to do with imported fruit. And currently there are laws that state at least 75% of a blend has to be made domestically in order to, or from an appellation. If it's made in Napa, at least 75% of it has to come from Napa. Similarly, if you buy a bottle of wine that says California, 75% has to come from California. But if we were to increase that, or at least have a winery call out, part of this is imported wine, I think the consumer just knowing that would really help.
Huh. Okay, so you You are a wine guy, obviously, but you're also a patriotic wine guy, as evidenced by your flag on the wall behind you and everything that you do. But we had an aha moment when we started our company, like gosh, it was like almost 16 years ago now, over chips and salsa, right, at a Mexican restaurant. When was your aha moment to start your small business, and how did that happen?
Oh man, I remember exactly where I was. I was driving down the highway on my daily drive down to the vineyard, and I remember having this moment. And it was actually born out of my father, who I learned from him. He spent a lifetime in the wine industry, saying, whatever you do, Paul, never, ever start a winery. Don't do it. Please, if you take any advice from me my entire life in this industry, don't start a winery. And
So defiance. It's defiance. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
it's part of my nature. But I actually took all of his cautionary tales of why you don't do it. And there's a lot of reasons, but if you go in to try and sell through grocery stores, you're competing with Gallo and Constellation, who own the shelf space, so you'll never compete there.
Right.
And if you try and stay small and do a little tasting room in Napa, then you're one of hundreds of wineries competing for foot traffic. And
Right.
that is an uphill battle as well.
Mhm.
What he hadn't considered was kind of having a virtual winery that lives online and is focused around people and their passion. And it's something that you could really only do online, because I mean, sure, there's people locally passionate, but that's a very small group of people. But once you go, out into the world and broadcast, you can find really, patriotic people who love this country, who want to buy products that reflect their values.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when I looked around, because I wanted to start a winery, I wanted to do this, and I thought, almost every winery you think of is all about themselves. It's about the vineyard they come from, the pedigree of the winemaker, the person's name who's on the bottle and how great they are.
Mhm.
It's all about that. And I wanted to start something that was about something that people were passionate about. And, I'm very passionate about politics and conservative politics. People think California is all blue. And if you were to actually look at the state, like, it is a huge agricultural state, and those communities are quite conservative.
You're so right. You are so right about that. Yeah.
Well, and go ahead.
No, I've got a campaign I'm going to come out with next year that is "The Heart of California Bleeds Red." And it is,
Love it.
yeah, and it is especially going into the midterms. And I really want to have a splash here in California and just bring attention to the fact that we're not all a bunch of, liberal wag jobs.
Yeah.
And that was actually the reason, my initial reason for starting the winery was because I was so sick of the narrative of the media
Yeah.
portraying us as what I call just heartless bigots. They're all a bunch of heartless bigots.
Yeah.
And my experience with conservatives is just so different, like the biggest hearts you can imagine.
Yeah.
We just don't want to rely on the government to solve our problems.
Yeah.
We'd rather band together and solve things ourselves.
That's our community too. We totally get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and we've loved that so much of the messaging around your brand has been about how wine is meant to inspire conversations, that you drink it when you're in the company of loved ones or friends or family or whatever. And we get that, because so much, one of our most watched videos ever was when we were drinking wine and having some and enjoying it during a debate night or an election night during a live stream. Like, this was, a couple of years ago, but that is, when you think about drinking and socializing with friends, it's all about conversations. I'm curious to know if you've gotten feedback, because that's been part of your branding. Have you gotten any good stories from people who have had your wine on the table and it has started conversations? And can you tell us about those?
Oh man, it's countless. People, everything from, I gifted this to my liberal aunt as a little bit of a jab, because they're, and it's actually ends up sparking a conversation where you actually make some headway, or you start to kind of understand each other a little bit more. I hear it all the time. And it's even within, conservatives, I have this, it's a kind of a play on the wine, but we call it shades of red, where even within our own party, there are certainly things that unite us, the big themes, right? But how we get there, how we want to achieve those goals, there's a lot of different opinions.
Right.
And that's great. That's the whole point of a democracy, is having different opinions, and the best ones rise to the top. And the only way you know what the best ones are is through discourse, is through conversation, is through sitting around with a glass of wine, not taking shots and, but just sitting around civilly with a glass of wine and some food around the dinner table or the porch or wherever you have it, and just talk and be civil.
You can't get mad at somebody for giving you a gift, right? Like that. What a door opener. Like if you're gifting someone, how can they get mad?
Right.
Yeah.
I've had people contact me saying, it was given to, they are liberal. It was given to them as a gift. They soaked the label off. They were so offended by it. They soaked the label off.
God.
And then poured the wine and was like, it's actually really good wine.
I'm gonna drink the wine. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't waste
Oh
the
my
wine.
gosh.
But
That's
even there, it's, I've had so much fun with this project, and so many people, we work with conservative organizations. They use it for fundraising. They use it at their events. It's been a really fun project. And we have a whole new phase of our company coming out.
That's
We were
exciting.
a huge success over this last election, and I've taken some of that success and reinvested it into the business. And we're really doubling down on creating community and doing more things like live tastings, and going to be going around the country with events and doing different things. So it's an exciting time for us.
That's
really
is
great.
awesome. Well, we've loved having a chance to talk about your wine and your company to our audience. And we've made sure that they know if they would like to check it out, they can go to republicanred.com. And I know right now there's a special offer for our audience where they can get the Patriot Starter Pack, which is the 4 bottles of wine, right? 10% off and free shipping when they use the code CHICKS at republicanred.com. Do you have anything you'd like to share about what's included in that Patriot Pack?
Yeah, it's our best sellers. So we've got our Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet in a sparkling wine. So people think Republican Red, you must be all red wine. No, we have white wine too. We just figured we couldn't call it Republican white. It wouldn't land well in the community. Simple.
Right.
I had an internal joke, and I knew it wasn't going to work well, but the campaign was going to be taste the privilege. And
I love it.
just that's that edgy side of me that wants to kind of poke the bear a little bit. But I decided better judgment. Let's not do that. And so everything's Republican Red, but we have a Chardonnay, a sparkling wine, it's so delicious.
That's my favorite.
And then Pinot and Cab, and then we have special edition labels, and we're constantly coming out with new things because they're conversational pieces. So you join our wine club, every shipment, you'll get kind of a new set of conversation pieces.
So great.
Consistent, great quality wine.
That's awesome. Well, it's been great to talk to you more about the business, the brand, the wine itself. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I really
Thank you.
appreciated being here. Thank you.